Welcome to the Redvee TV show, supported by Chapel House for the 2023 season. It is the weekend we have all looked forward to for so long. We've been building up to it. We've just needed it to come around. It's round one of the Super League. It's Saints playing catch-up. Peter, good evening.
Yes, good evening. I actually thought you were talking about Charles got a final weekend there. I'm about to say, of course, and the men blew it in the semi-final, but I dare say we'll come around to that. Yeah, a round one fixture in early August. It feels more like football than rugby, but it's good to good to catch up, and hopefully with the right result this weekend, well, certainly a win by 6 points puts us third. A win by, I think, about 754 puts us second. But at least it would get us level and back in, as we spoke about last week, getting the much required home semi-final. So big match this weekend. But perhaps across the whole of the St Helens spectrum, not the biggest match of the weekend. Nice wee segue for you there.
Yeah, and that is why, Peter, we are starting off with the Women's Challenge Cup final as the Saints women travel down to Wembley for the first ever historic Women's Challenge Cup final to be held at the National Stadium. Jodie Cunningham there alongside the trophy as the ladies hope to retain it. It's just testament to how far not only Women's Rugby League has come in this country, but women's sport as a whole. Obviously, we've got the World Cup going on in Australia and the football at the moment. But Saints women, chance on the biggest stage of all to make their mark.
Absolutely. I mean, I was down at Elland Road, as you remember, last year for the final against Leeds as well, and they did well to come back from behind. And Leeds are always perennial kind of top dogs to battle against Saints for the trophies. I think Saints have had the upper hand in recent matches. I'm just really gutted for the ladies team and obviously gutted for ourselves that the men didn't make it, because they would have had a much bigger support. A lot of people would have been down a little bit earlier to go in and support the women, I think. But in their own right, they fully deserve to be there. It was an epic semi-final against York, down to that rarest of beasts, I think, in the women's game, a drop goal, and a fantastic strike it was too to win the match. So hopefully it's not quite as tense and nervous tomorrow. Hopefully the women get a nice, comfortable victory. But it's great to be there, as you say. A historic day in women's rugby league that the women's final is sharing the showpiece limelight with the men, and people have been starting over the past 3-4 years to take more interest in the women's game. It's high quality. There's lots of skill involved. It's just as rough and tough as the man's game. It's great to watch, and the crowds are seeming to be getting bigger and bigger. The excitement more and more with every passing season, and as well, there's obviously going to be a much bigger take up amongst young girls to get interested and to start playing the game, which can only grow even further.
Yeah, I remember going down to watch Saints women in the first season. We played Wigan, I think it was at Robin Park, and then there was fixtures that got played at Fat O'Heath, and there was maybe 100, 150 on watching. Now you see many of the games being played that are totally wicked. They're getting crowds of a couple of thousand. The standard of skill it's absolutely meteoric. Easy for you to say. And obviously that comes down to a more professional training environment, access to better facilities, and obviously as well, you're looking at the amount of young girls actually playing the game now. I think in St Helens alone, I think there's at least 5 or 6 different teams. So Saints have got a real good feeder base in the pipeline to bring the next generation through. And I think after watching the women there tomorrow, role models to many a young girl in St Helens and young men as well, I would say, because the chance to watch local homegrown stars on the biggest stage, it just gives it, if they can do it, why can't I? And it'll encourage participation in the sport. And there's one young girl I'm aware of in St Helens, a friend's daughter, who, if she carries on the way she's going out, I'm convinced she'll play for Saints one day. I won't mention her name, I won't embarrass her, but her time will come, I'm pretty sure. Saints squad for tomorrow. And there's quite a lot of them names that have been at the club since the start. The likes of Rebecca Rotherham, Faye Gaskin, Tara Jones, Jodie Cunningham. They'll get their just rewards tomorrow, being able to walk out at Wembley. And the way this squad is, I don't think nerves will get to them either. I think they'll be fully prepared, ready to go and get the job done and bring that trophy home again. And hopefully, St Helens Council will once again put a trophy tour on for them on the double-decker bus.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, it's great. I think any nerves tomorrow would be shared by both teams. So it's the Leeds Rhinos ladies as well. Obviously, it's going to be their first match at Wembley as well. Big pitch, so we'll see how the fitness is affected. I don't think it'll be a major problem, but sometimes, even with the men, you see that. Because it's a bigger surface, beating rugby or football, it's quite difficult to, late in the later stages of matches, they feel it in the old hamstrings. But it's a wonderful, wonderful occasion. Lots of the girls, as I say, have been there for a number of years. They've won Super League titles, they've won the grand final, they've won the Challenge Cup before. But this feels like something different, something bigger, playing, as I say, on the Wembley stage at the same day as the men. It's a kind of a staging point for the women's game, almost being on an even footing with the men's game. And I think it's hugely important, as you say, to all the young girls across St Helens and across the region. They say, I want to be the next Zoe Harris, I want to be the next Tara Jones, I want to be the next Jodie Cunningham. They can see them. They can see them on the biggest stage on TV. They can go and see them locally as well. And it's achievable, it's attainable. And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I just hope that there's a lot of people who are going down tomorrow from St Helens, get there nice and early. Even the Hull KR and Lee Leopards fans, hopefully a lot of them will maybe go in out of curiosity to watch the game, get a bit of an atmosphere, so that the game gets the crowd that it deserves. And I really, really hope that the women can do it tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously we've got Pip Birch all in there as well. Used to obviously go on the coach, on the Jared Songster's coach. So she was there a couple of years ago watching the men in the crowd, and I think she'll be pinching herself, realising that she's actually on the pitch tomorrow.
Well, probably better her on the pitch than Dave Howarth, with all respect to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen Dave Howarth play. He's not great. But
it'll be better than me. It'll be better than me, in fairness.
It's like the thing, like dreams are made of. As a Saints fan, putting on that Saints jersey, going on that field to try and win the Challenge Cup and go up them Wembley steps. It's mind blowing. Interesting to note as well, and it's interesting that in every squad you need the one or two who get the team up for it. Obviously, the men's team have got Louis McCarthy Scarsbrook. The women's team have got Chani Crowell, who was interviewed at the Members' Day a couple of days ago, and she was saying she'll be the one getting the music going, getting the team buzzing and up for the game. There's a real buzz, and then obviously Matty Smith leading the women out at Wembley. 10 years since he represented Wigan, winning the Challenge Cup at Wembley and the Lance Todd Trophy. So it'll be a dream for him. There was a column in the Liverpool Echo this week talking about Matty Smith potentially being Clubman of the Year. Obviously, he was at the women's game last Sunday when they defeated Wigan 12 points to 4 at Robin Park. And then within an hour, he was there assisting Paul Wellens and Lauren Fresneau at the AJ Bell Stadium. So he's doing double shifts. I'm not entirely sure whether he'll be able to do one this weekend if the result goes our way and the celebrations. It might be.
I wouldn't have thought so.
He may have a headache on Sunday. But yeah, and last of all, for the women's team, Faye Gaskin. What I was going to say, a redemption story after the serious injury she suffered a couple of years ago. Horrific injury to her knee, celebrating a try, missed last season and the Challenge Cup final then. But she's come back in at the start of this year and she's been absolutely phenomenal. That drop goal to get us to the final against York at at Warrington was possibly one of the best drop goals I've seen under pressure in many, many a year.
Since Matty Smith's against
I
Salford,
don't know whether she shocked herself and shocked the teammates. It was that far out that she decided to have a pop and absolutely cracked it over. Yeah, I really, really hope for Faye that she goes on tomorrow and leads the team to victory.
Well, definitely, she's missed out on so much of the success that she was a part of, in the early days and all the way through. So it would be a fitting, well, not finale, but a fitting end to the comeback, as it were. That she went up the steps, collected the trophy. That would be wonderful. And I think obviously the drop goal, I alluded to Matty Smith there, the drop goal against Salford 6 years ago. So it's no coincidence. I don't think that Matty's taken over the coaching, and suddenly the girls are pinging over 30-odd metre drop goals. You know what I mean? It's the coaching, I think, from the drop goal expert.
Absolutely. So there's obviously 21 women's squad. 17 will take the field, and hopefully they'll write the name in the history books and come home heroes. Good luck to all Saints women. I know there is a fair following going down from St Helens early tomorrow morning to be at Wembley. Kickoff is at 10 to 12. If you're not going down, make sure you tune in, and hopefully let's witness history being made.
Here.
Next biggest news of the week, Peter.
Yes.
George Delaney signing a 3-year contract at the club, just reward for his start to the season. He was a man who came into the squad with high hopes, given his record in the academy. He was always destined to be a star, but it doesn't always go that way, does it? You know how things can change when you come into the men's game, but he's hit the ground running. And as Paul Whelan said this week, he hasn't got a handbrake.
Oh, he doesn't. He only knows one way, and that is just forward. He doesn't. He's no kind of like respecter of his opponent in terms of he doesn't bow down to or be overawed by an experienced campaigner. He'll just run harder towards him with the ball. He'll just hit him harder in the tackle, and I think it's testament to the work. Again, I keep bigging him up every time I'm on here. Obviously, because I know him and been part of Sharon's family as well. Derek Trainer, another of his success stories. He manages to find these talents, him and his team, develop them, bring them through, and make them first team ready. Obviously, you did mention correctly that not everyone makes it, and the name that came into my head that time, and I don't mean to deride the boy, not at all. It was obviously Gareth Frodsham, who came through in a couple of games, and then that night, I think it was Bradford, wasn't it, where he's kind of, shall we say, met his match, and he wasn't the same after that. And that can happen to the best of players. But this George Delaney he is different gravy, if I can use that expression. He just looks like he's been playing first team rugby for years. Obviously, he's going to hit spells where he doesn't play so well, but I think he's got a lot of good guys around about him that will keep him level-headed, won't let him get too down if he has a bad game, won't let him get too above himself if he continues to play well. He'll keep him, and he seems like a sensible young lad anyway. But we've got one here that could, be a standout in the Redvee for many, many years to come. I'm delighted that we've been able to keep hold of him.
You always look at the likes of like Alex Walmsley, Adrian Morley, James Graham, how they looked when they came into the team when they were 18, and they were all skinny, gangly, hadn't filled out, youthful, baby-faced. Imagine what George Delaney's going to be like in a few years once we've fed him.
Yeah, once he grows up, he's a unit as it is. But yeah, once he fills out, he's going to be calling Conrad Hurrell wee man anytime anytime soon. So he's he's a bit of a boy. I don't know what would be worse. I don't know whether it would be worse tackling him or trying to feed him for a week. I'll get back to you on that one, I think. But no, I'm glad he's ours. Put it that way.
Well, talking about feeding him for a week, it was good to see on the club's video of him signing his deal. They invited his parents down, and obviously they talked about the academy and bringing our stars through. And it's the way the club does things, and that is why we've been so successful in recent years, because we've always had this supply line coming through. We look after the players, we look after the families. You've obviously had the likes of Jack Wellesby, Lewis Dodd, George Delaney coming through. You only have to look at St. Stephen. The reason why we're always up there is because the core of our team is homegrown. It didn't lose sight on me that we had that video while Warrington are failing dismally without an academy and they're relying on publicity stunts.
Well, that's exactly it. For years, I'm going to only mention Warrington briefly because you did there. They seem to go for the big, sensational, sexy signing rather than a good, sensible approach, and I think that's been their downfall. Sam Burgess might go on to be fantastic. Who knows? But again, it's all about the headlines, all about the razzmatazz. Whereas, as you say, Saints build from the ground up, and I think all the teams that have been the most successful over the years, and we have to mention Wigan and Leeds in general, have been the ones with the biggest, most successful, and best funded and best coached academy, and academies that don't just treat these lads as players, they treat them as people. They involve their families, they look after them off the field as well as they look after them on the field. And I think that is absolutely crucial, not just in bringing players in, but having their family on side and their family knowing that they're in good hands, but obviously retaining them and then using these guys as the example to then bring in other young guys. Look at like in 2 or 3 years, we can say to a young guy who's looking between us and Warrington, look at there's George Delaney, look at Jack Wellesby, these guys, we brought them in. Look at them now, we gave them their chance. And that can tip the balance. And I think as long as we keep doing that, we'll always be ahead of these pretenders.
Absolutely. I'd have a young academy raised George Delaney ahead of sunbed Paul Vaughan any day of the week. Right, moving on. Round 1 this weekend. It's the start of a new season, and Saints still have massive injury issues. 4 changes to the squad this week. Will Hopoate drops out with a hamstring injury, as does Curtis Sironen. James Bell serves a 1-match ban, and young Jake Burns, the hooker, drops out of the 21. Coming back in, John Bennison, hopefully going to be fit, recovering from injury. Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrook, who's had the shoulder issue. Joe Batchelor, a welcome return for him. And Sione Matautia coming back from suspension. I think this weekend's going to be really tough. The last 2 games have been close run things. We didn't help ourselves Sunday, putting ourselves behind the 8 ball at Salford. But we've got a Huddersfield team coming in to face us who have picked up form in recent weeks, winning the last 4, including a Catalan as well.
Yeah, this is by no means going to be an absolute gimme. I mean, 5-6 weeks ago, when I looked at this and thought, we'll beat these easy. But they, as you say, have hit form. They've got back to doing what they do best. At times, it's not the most exciting, but then again, that accusation has perhaps been levelled at Saints. But in fairness to them, you know, they've stuck by Ian Watson. There was lots of calls to get rid, but I know a lot of people aren't keen on him, but he's proved himself as a coach, and I think he's now found the best spine for their team. And it's no accident that he's got the spine of the team right, and everything else seems to be working well around about it. We'll have to play well to win. It's disappointing. We've got a couple of injuries, and obviously James Bell suspension as well. But I think we're bringing players back in. We're not losing any strength. We're replacing like for like, I think, in terms of strength. So hopefully, assuming that Louis and Batch are good to go for Sunday, we'll be in a good place. And if we play well, I expect us to win, but we'll need to play well. We won't get away with a 6 out of 10 performance to beat Huddersfield this time.
Yeah, obviously, out of the 17 who played last week, obviously it's Curtis Sironen and James Bell who go out. You'd think that Sione and Joe Batch would come in as like-for-like replacements, and then obviously you're hopefully going to have Louis back on the bench, being able to be that mobile prop. I think for me, missing out is probably going to be Wes Bruins, Matty Foster and Lewis Baxter, three who missed out last week. And then I think it's a call between John Bennison and T. Ritson for that wing spot. T hasn't been lighting it up in recent weeks, although we did have a good second half last week. I just think it's probably going to be John Bennison who gets that wing slot and a chance to show what we've been missing with him.
I think so. I mean, I think T in a lot of ways has been unlucky in that we've not gotten the ball in the areas where traditionally he's caused a lot of difficulties for his opponents. He's been and he's been put under pressure defensively. Other teams have targeted him specifically, but he's put his hand up any time he's played. He's never hid. He's never not wanted the ball. He's never shirked a tackle. He's never shirked a run. So I full credit to him. Whether he's a long-term answer on the wing, that's open to question. Regards this week, if John Bennison's fit, for me, he comes back into the team. I wouldn't take a risk with him if he's not 100%. T can do the job. But if he is fully fit, then I would agree with you that John comes back in on the wing, and the other changes, I would make them as well. If obviously the other guys that come back in are fully fit and ready to go, I wouldn't risk them because I say we're playing Sunday then Friday. So if you're going to, if Louis needs to wait to next Friday night, then so be it. But ideally, we'll have all those guys back in, and we should be strong enough against a very decent Huddersfield team.
Yeah, I would suspect the team will probably be Jack Wellsby at fullback, Tommy Makinson and Mark Percival on one side, Ben Davis and John Bennison on the other, Johnny Lomax and Dodd in the halves, Matty Lees and George Delaney starting at prop, Roby at 9, second row Matautia, Batchelor, Morgan Knowles at 13, bench Louis, Dan Norman, Sam Royal, and probably Moses Mbai.
That sounds about right for me, yeah.
I think I've been really impressed with Sam Royal in recent weeks. He's a player who has only had sporadic opportunities just because of the level of player who we've got at the club who've been ahead of him. I think he's needed this little run of games. He's obviously highly thought of, a really intelligent lad. He's captained the team when he came in last season. I've been really impressed with him, and I think this has been a really good spell for him, and hopefully he'll continue to get games in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult because people that unfairly, I think, perhaps compare him to the guys that he's up against. And you look at the form of Joe Batchelor, look at the form of Curtis Sirenen, you look at James Bell, you look at Sione Matautia. You're not comparing apples with apples. I mean, Sam's very much solid, very unflashy, just gets the job done. An 80-minute man that just head down, get on with the hard work. I'm not saying these guys aren't, but they're obviously they're a cut above in terms of class. But he does everything that's asked of him, and he does it willingly, and he does it wholeheartedly. And you can't really ask any more in that position. It's a workhorse position. And in the last couple of weeks, when we've been down in numbers and kind of behind the 8 ball in terms of really needing to win these games, he's come in and he's done the job, and particularly defensively, and it's helped us to 2 very, very important wins. And I think if it's between him and Lewis Baxter for the extra jersey on Sunday, it's probably going to be Sam because he started the last couple of games. But he's done great. No complaints at all.
Okay, Huddersfield squad, they are unchanged from last week's victory. Again, pretty strong squad. Their big news this week is that Theo Farge has been announced that he's going to go back to Catalan next season. But they've got players in there who are dangerous. And we do really, we've obviously discussed it a little bit, need to be a little bit wary on Sunday of the threat they're going to pose.
Yeah, I mean, I know we say that they don't play a huge amount of exciting rugby, but they do have guys that if you kick badly to them, they can return the ball and make a lot of meters. They've got a lot of clever players, at full back and in the halves, and they've got, as you look at that squad there, they've got a few different options there. Everyone's favourite Jake Connor for one. But they've got a lot of intelligent players and a lot of good hard-working forwards as well, who do again the solid, unflashy, thankless work up the middle. They just truck it up there and they keep going and going and going. They kick well, and they've got try scorers, out wide. So if we're not on it and we give them a sniff, we could be in trouble. But I think this will be potentially could be quite an attritional game on Sunday, set for set for a large part of the game, and it's whoever takes their chances when they come. It's whoever maybe whose discipline's a little bit better, who's his kind of tackle stats are better, who's making that extra metre, getting their shoulders through the tackle for an offload. It's going to be the fine margins, I think, on Sunday that will determine the victor.
Absolutely. Should be a cracker. It is a 5 p.m. kickoff at the Totally Wicked Stadium. And there is an offer for this game. It's Sunday Super League. What more can you want? £15 adults, £5 kids, and you don't have to watch Liverpool on the telly.
I was expecting some sort of comment there, Dave. Fair play. But listen, it's a great offer. You know what I mean? It's
You know what? Sorry, Peter. Liverpool remind me of Warrington, going after the big names and then being shunned at the last minute.
Well, I'm obviously neutral when it comes to the English Premier League.
I've seen you at Anfield. Don't worry.
As we've already discussed that's my good lady. But I just go along to watch some good football, and that'll be anyway. I'm going to try and get to Goodison before it kind of stops being Everton's ground, because it's.
Peter, I will take you to Goodison. You can come with me.
There we are. You've all heard that now. That's it. I'll definitely need to do that.
Hopefully Sunday should be dry. It's a chance to get all the family down there earlier than an evening kickoff during the summer holidays. Hopefully it'll be a win and we'll get a big crowd.
Yeah, I mean it's a great offer. You know what I mean? It's that those prices. That it's if people who maybe can't get along for various reasons, for work, or not everyone's getting disposable income all the time. It's a great offer. Get down there, get down early. Get selfies with the players as they come in, or at full time. Go and enjoy the atmosphere and cheer Saints on it. What would be a very, very important 2 points, we hope.
I genuinely don't believe there is anybody left in St Helens who wants an autograph or a selfie with a player, given the 1,400 fans who turned up at the Members' Day in blistering sunshine on Wednesday afternoon. The queue was massive. Well,
what can you say? You've got to do that for the kids, because it's not. See, for a player, you might think.
You say, Peter, again. You say that, but I said to my little girl, absolutely no chance I'm standing here for 2 hours in a queue. I'm dead sorry.
I know, but it's the kids. And then some kids will go when they go back and see their pals. They'll say, "Oh, look, I met Mark Percival, or I was speaking to Tommy Makinson." And once you get them, that maybe if they're not regulars or just getting into rugby league, that's the hook. They spoke to these guys that they look upon as superstars, and Tommy had a wee chat with them, or Percy took the photograph for them, or talking to big Connie Hurrell, and having a laugh with him. I think he spoke to him. He used my name, to the kid, and that means everything when you're 7, 8, 9 years old. You know what I mean?
It's a different world. It's a level probably of exposure that you don't get in football these days. And I was thinking, if you could convert even just half of those, I'm assuming most of them probably members anyway, but it was open to non-members. If you get half of them who came to get tickets to come on Sunday, for example, you get that hook. You've got the next generation, and that's how you grow your crowds.
Absolutely right. It's getting them in and getting them interested nice and early, and making them feel part of it, and making them feel like, as a supporter, even as a kid, that they matter. They've met the players and they know the players. So when they get down to the next game, they talk to the player, say Tommy Mack, I'll use him again. You might recognise some of the kids that he met at the open day and give them a wee wave, and then the kids will love that. You know what I mean? And that's it. You've got them for life.
Okay, Peter, prediction for Sunday then.
Yes, and seeing as we never did predictions last week, I'm not going to claim I was going to say Saints by 3, though. Don't worry about that. I'm going to say Saints by 7. I think a wee tight nip and tuck game, maybe a wee Lewis Dodd drop goal just to settle the nerves late on.
I'm going to go Saints by 6. Because the
There we
drop
go.
goal at the end is going to come back off the post.
And then they're going to counter attack and they're going to hold them up over the
No,
line.
yes. Not go down the other end and score.
It's one of the two of them. It's one of the two.
Right, fingers crossed. Peter, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us again.
Catch you very soon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Good luck to the women on Saturday, and we hope to see you parading the trophy on Sunday. Catch you soon.